Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Before we get into today's episode, I want to remind you guys to get subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and hit that big red button if you're watching on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. The link is down below, youtube.com/Bears Now. Recently passed 3,500 subscribers. Let's get to 5,000 by the end of March. We will have coverage all offseason long, leading you into the 2020 season. Now, let's get into today's episode of Chicago Bears Now. Looks like the Chicago Bears are not going to be in the Tom Brady sweepstakes, despite the fact that apparently he's going to test the market for the first time in his career. Doesn't look like the Patriots are going to get a deal done before free agency officially begins on March 18th. The Chicago Sun-Times wrote an opinion piece basically saying Ryan Pace and the Bears, they're too content with Mitch Trubisky, which means they're not going to pay big for Tom Brady. Should that be the case? Should they be content with Trubisky or bringing in a quarterback who can compete with Mitch, like we talked about at the NFL Combine, like Ryan Pace talked about, saying, hey, competition is good, we'll bring in someone to compete with Trubisky. Now, I think these are some more likely quarterbacks that the Bears could go after this offseason, but they're not exactly huge upgrades. Andy Dalton, I like him and Derek Carr as options to push Mitch and maybe be the starter. I don't think Cam Newton's super likely at this point. Nick Foles, no thanks. I'm not interested in him. I think those first two guys are the likely scenarios, but should Bears fans, should we settle for, hey, Ryan Pace, he drafted Mitch Trubisky, let's just roll with him as the starter. I'm not saying just throw $30 million at Tom Brady, but I do think they should at least be interested. I think this roster is good enough to at least compete for a deep playoff run in 2020. Who do you want the Bears starting quarterback to be this upcoming season? If you think it's Trubisky, go ahead and type his name down below. I'm okay if it's Mitch. I'm not saying he can't start under any circumstances. I just don't think there's any harm in being aggressive for a quarterback this offseason. Doesn't appear the Bears are going to go that route, though. But let me know. Go ahead and answer this question down below. It's NFL mock draft season. Lots of them coming out. And my guy Tom Downey releases them all the time. Just released his latest one on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, the Post-Combine Edition. And guess what? He's not like the lazy national media folks who only do the first round. They're like, oh, Bears don't have a first-round pick. Why would I watch? He includes the teams who don't have a first-round pick, does their first pick. So find out who he has the Bears taking with the 43rd overall pick. The link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description for you guys. Make it easy to find that video. Next story up here, could the Bears be interested in trading for a tight end? This coming from The Athletic, that there is some chatter that the Bears have interested in making a trade. Look, the production last year, this position, it was an absolute disaster. We've shown the graphic a couple of times. I think producer Alicia is going to throw it up there again and just bleed your eyes out because this is hard to watch. Not a single guy had 100 yards receiving last year. Yikes, that is a disaster. We've talked about it a bunch. Got to upgrade at this position. Yes, the Bears did bring on Demetrius Harris earlier in February. He's a rotation guy, though. He's not a number one tight end. Chicago has to get a true number one tight end to help out Mitchell Trubisky or whoever the starting quarterback ends up being. Who do you want as the Bears' top tight end in 2020? Who do you want the starter to be? Lots of guys on the roster. It's a mash unit. Let's just be honest. Rotation guys at best. Who do you want the top guy to be at the tight end position this season? Go ahead and let me know down in the comments section. And while you're doing that, take advantage of this deal. Time's running out on it. The deals come and go very, very quickly. Chatsports.com/BearsZipped. You can find this quarter zip jacket. It's 30% off right now. The deal's going to run out soon. Got it in this color, got it in gray as well. Go to this link, chatsports.com/BearsZip. Go ahead and warm yourself up if you're in Chicago. It's still pretty cold this time of year. Link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description. You can find it easily right there. So potential trade targets at the tight end position. Hayden Hurst, I think, is an option from Baltimore. They got a bunch of tight ends on their roster, including Mark Andrews. Cameron Brate of Tampa Bay. They got O.J. Howard. I think he's a good veteran option. He would be an upgrade from what the Bears have. Vance McDonald as well. Jimmy Graham, Delaney Walker, aging players who weren't what they were, but they'd still come in and be the Bears' number one tight end. Now, they cost a little more as far as salary cap hit goes. Maybe you can restructure your contract after you trade for him. That could be an option. But those are some veteran tight ends the Bears could trade for this offseason. You look at the depth chart, it ain't pretty. Trey Burton, 2 years ago, he was great. Not really that guy anymore. I mentioned Demetrius Harris. I like him as a tight end number 2. If he's your second tight end, decent blocker, decent receiver, I'm cool with that. Don't like Adam Shaheen. I think the Bears should cut him, save some money. 3 or 4 other guys on the roster, but the Bears, again, they've got to find a true number 1 tight end. All the good offenses, at least for the most part in the NFL, they've got big-time weapons at the tight end position. Bears don't have that right now, and that needs to change this offseason. Next note here, Nick Kwiatkowski. Are the Bears making him a priority? That is the report that they are this offseason. Made a lot of great strides in 2019, took advantage of Roquan Smith missing time, Danny Trevathan missing time. Speaking of Trevathan, what does that mean for his future if the Bears prioritize Nick Kwiatkowski? Because I think it's pretty unlikely that both are back in Chicago next season. You put them up side by side. Look, Trevathan missed 7 games last year. A big trait you have in the NFL is availability. He wasn't available that often last year. Kwiatkowski took advantage, had his breakout season, 8 tackles for loss. Also had 3 sacks from an inside linebacking spot. That is pretty good production in this scheme. Forced fumble also, and again, the 16 games played, he was available. I think they're going to bring him back. I think Danny Trevathan is likely gone. You look at the linebacking depth chart, if you lose Trevathan and or Kwiatkowski, you got to find a replacement there. Still have Trevathan as the starter, but that asterisk, of course, means he is a free agent. Some backups are free agents as well. You slide in Kwiatkowski next to Roquan Smith. I think you're feeling pretty good about that. We'll see if Leonard Floyd is on this team this year. As of now, it appears he will be. Ryan Pace talked highly of him at the NFL Combine. No indication that he is going to be cut. Maybe he gets traded or something like that. But that's how it looks right now. I think Kwiatkowski does end up being the priority for the Chicago Bears. At the linebacker position, I think Danny Trevathan tests free agency and likely goes in a different direction. Today's show is brought to you by the internet's #1 sportsbook. That's, of course, BetDSI. Chatsports.com/bet. That'll get you to the sign-up page. You can already bet on win projections for next year. Make sure you use that NFL 120 promo code. Get that 120% deposit bonus. You want to be like me, a smart bettor? Put down $100. Get 120 for free. That way, if you're a beginner also, if you miss a couple of bets, you got plenty of leftover money. No big deal. NBA, XFL, you can bet on it all at BetDSI. Now, Derrick Henry rumors are starting to fly around, and I don't think this is very likely, but Bleacher Report did a little article earlier today saying that basically the theme of the article was what players can help young quarterbacks in the NFL. Mitch Trubisky being a young quarterback, they said Derrick Henry would be an ideal gift for Trubisky and the Bears offense. And in theory, yeah, that sounds great, right? A guy you can give the ball 25, 30 times a game, pound the rock, control the clock, and have Mitch Trubisky throw it 20 or 25 times a game at most, play possession football. That sounds great in theory, but the Titans are planning on tagging Henry. He wants Ezekiel Elliott type of money. He said so himself, and for good reason, because he had a breakout season this year with over 1,500 yards, leading the NFL in rushing, improved as a pass catcher, although he still isn't great in that area, which is a bit of a red flag to me. I like guys who can catch the football, but it's fun to think about. It's fun to think about pairing him with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Cohen doesn't have to worry about running the rock anymore. He can just be that gadget receiving type of back. Montgomery can do a little bit of everything. He can have Henry take a couple of extra plays off. It would be fun, but you just spent an early round pick on Montgomery. You're not going to spend big to go get Derrick Henry. Bears just don't have enough cap space, and I think in the end, Tennessee gets a deal done with Derrick Henry. But just for fun, how much money per year would you pay Derrick Henry? I think it's going to cost Tennessee or another team at least 13, probably more like 14 or 15. He wants to be the highest paid, which would be 16. I don't think he's getting that. Would you pay 13? I don't know. For a running back who doesn't catch the ball that well, I'm not so sure I'd go that high. But give me your number down in the comments section. All right, just want to remind you guys of our Bears sale of the day. It's this quarter zip jacket, 30% off. If you're watching on your phone, go ahead and screenshot this. The link's right there, chatsports.com/BearsZip. It'll be in the comments and in the description as well. That way you can go buy this today. Okay, last one here. Should the Bears bring in a second kicker? I always think teams should. you should never just settle on who your kicker is unless you have Justin Tucker or something like that. Rodrigo Blankenship, remember the name. He's the top kicker in the 2020 NFL draft class. I think he's going to get drafted probably, which also a big no-go for me. You should never draft kickers, but you should always bring in competition. He was the Lou Groza Award winner last year. A couple of game-winning kicks in his career. Has a big leg as well. A couple of 55-yarders in his career. Never missed an extra point either. Obviously, the college extra point is not the NFL extra point, but 4-year starter at Georgia to never miss one, that is pretty impressive. And then I love the percentage from 50 yards and out, 6 of 9. That's very, very good from 50 plus. 82.5% overall. Good number for Blankenship as well, considering the hashes are wider in college football. Does Eddie Pinheiro need competition? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Obviously finished the year a lot better. Kind of had a lull in the middle of the season. Did finish strong, but for me, the answer is yes. I think you should always bring in competition. Again, pretty good season in 2019. 23 of 28, most of those misses in the middle of the year. Only missed a couple of extra points. 2 for 2 from 50 plus. Did have a game-winning kick. But if it's me, I am bringing in someone to compete with Eddie Pinheiro at the kicker position.